The weekend. I didn't know that the weekend would change everything. I thought it was just a beach trip. Friends, drinks, sand between our toes. I was in college then, desperate for a break without knowing what I needed to break from. Four of us packed into a car and headed to Pier Beach, with no real plan beyond a few drinks and letting the ocean remind us why we were still young. At that point in my life, I hadn't dated much. I hadn't even felt real desire. Not the kind people talk about. I honestly thought I just hadn't met the right guy yet. I didn't know that something in me was sleeping. We did all the normal things. Shopped along the strip, walked until our feet hurt, played video games at the old arcade. Then we sat in a bar near the beach while the sun went down and stayed as late as we could until the lights come on. My name is Shay, and Maggie was my closest friend. At least that's what I thought she was. As the weekend went on, something about her felt different, or maybe I was just finally paying attention. Once while we were walking, she held my hand out of nowhere, like it didn't even need explaining. Later, she leaned her head onto my shoulder at the bar, her mouth close to my ear, and she whispered to me, "You have no idea." And I didn't. I really didn't. We drank and laughed and let the night carry us. All of us, just a little bit tipsy. Well, except Gina, who stayed sober so she could drive us back home. The ride back was long. 2 hours of music too loud and dark, windy roads. We were sunburned and exhausted in that quiet, heavy way that only comes after a full day. At some point, I leaned my head onto Maggie's shoulder, like friends do, and I just fell asleep. But I woke slowly, not all at once, just enough to realize her hand was in my hair, not distracted, not absent. It was soft and intentional. Something shifted inside of me right then, something I'd never felt before. I moved my head slightly, just enough to let her know I was awake. She tapped my shoulder gently. When I looked up, her caramel eyes were already on me. Her breath deepened. So did mine. We felt lightheaded, intoxicated. I felt like gravity was pulling us closer, inch by inch, and I didn't know how to stop it. I didn't even know if I wanted to. Our lips touched, not rushed, but not careful. They lingered. My body was feeling electric. I could hear the tires roaring down the highway, feel the occasional bump in the road pressing us closer together. No one knew. Gina and Kendra were unaware of what was happening between us in the backseat. A rush of heat filled my chest. It was just too much. Too close. I pulled away, breathing hard. Maggie didn't say anything. She just watched me. We sat there shoulder to shoulder in the stillness of the night, the road stretching endlessly ahead of us, and eventually I drifted back to sleep. We got back to our apartment late. The air still clung to our skin, salt, sweat, sun. Her roommate Greg was out of town with his family, and the apartment felt unfamiliar in its quiet. We showered separately, really long showers, trying to wash the beach away, trying not to think too hard. I came back out and we slipped into what we always had been, at least on the surface. Pillows propped against the headboard, Maggie in an old dark pink t-shirt, me sitting cross-legged pretending to feel normal. She made popcorn. Extra butter, of course. I searched for a scary movie, something loud enough to keep us from talking. We turned off the lights and let the screen glow fill the room. At that point in my life, I was shy. I truly believed I just didn't meet the right guy yet. It had never crossed my mind that maybe I wasn't waiting for a guy at all. Maggie was outgoing, friendly. I had only ever seen her date boys around campus. Nothing serious, nothing lasting either. But something had shifted between us, and I could not get it out of my head. I pretended to watch the movie while we're playing the kiss in the car over and over and over again. She leaned toward me and asked if I would rub her neck. She said it was stiff from the ride home. I knew in my gut it was more than that. I wanted to say yes, and I was scared of what yes might mean. I moved behind her anyway, careful and quiet. I told myself this was still normal, that friends did this. I rubbed her neck slowly, watching the movie over her shoulder, pretending my hands weren't shaking. She sighed softly and leaned back into me. Not all at once, just enough to let me feel her weight on my body. She pushed me gently down onto the bed, like she already knew where I would land, and I froze. My hands rested beside my legs against the sheets. My heart was pounding in my ears. My thoughts were racing ahead of my courage. Her hands found my legs, light, unrushed. Her fingertips moved back and forth like she wasn't asking a question, just giving space. I was aware of everything. The warmth between us, the quiet hum of the movie still playing in the background, and the way the room felt smaller now. I remember thinking, This feels like a moment that something's going to change my life. Not because of what was happening, but because of what I was allowing myself to feel for the first time. There was a lot of fear and hesitation, but underneath it, there was a calm I didn't expect, like my body knew something my mind hadn't caught up to yet. We stayed there for a long time. No rush, no pressure, just breath, just closeness, and a feeling of being seen in a way I'd never had before. At some point, the world softened, the movie blurred, and the night wrapped around us, and without even realizing when it happened, sleep found us both. Morning came gently. Sunlight slipped through the window and rested on my face like it was checking on me. For a moment, I didn't remember even where I was. And then I did. The room was quiet and still, like the night had already packed itself away. I lay there awake, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand what everything had meant. Was it a beginning? Or was it something we would never talk about again? Maggie moved through the apartment like it was any other morning. Bare feet on the floor, coffee brewing, cabinets opening and closing. She smiled at me like she always had, easy and familiar, like nothing had happened. And that confused me more than anything, because I felt good, wide awake inside, like a part of me had finally been set free. But the closeness from the night before had drifted, not gone, just out of reach. We talked about normal things, class, what the new week would bring. I watched her hands as we talked, wondering if she felt it too, wondering if I had imagined the weight of the night entirely. It felt a little strange, like I'd been inside a movie and the act was over without warning. When it was time to leave, I stood at the door longer than necessary, waiting for something that I couldn't name. She walked over and hugged me goodbye, the same way she always had before, but my body remembered her differently now. I stepped into the brightness of the day and walked to my car, feeling changed, and I was really unsure what to do with it. As I drove away, I realized I wasn't trying to forget what happened. I was trying to understand who I was now that it had. I had crossed a quiet line, and there was no going back to the person I had been before.